This tournament holds a big part in my life. And, a lot of people tonight, a lot of Hall of Famers have mentioned how Winthrop has changed their life. He certainly changed mine for the better. And like he does by his son, Michael Jack Frost.
Tonight we've celebrated 6 incredible Winthrop student athletes. As Mike said, the next and last honoree is my dad, Jack. For nearly 30 years, he was behind the scenes with a singular focus to champion the successes of each of you and countless others who have worn the garnet and gold. Dimmer down, my brother Jonathan and I have had a front row seat to many of this university's greatest athletic achievements. Athletics, as many of you know and deeply understand, as a family. It's been mentioned by several of the inductees this evening. Thank you for allowing us to be a part of the Winthrop family all these years. In a few moments, Dad will share a few reflections and celebrate those who are on this journey with him. But first, I'd like to share a few for comic relief for him. These stories may mean more to him than obviously others in the room, but this is a few reflections from my brother and I. Room 66 of the Coliseum, which later became his office and media room, was his first residence in Rock Hill. He came to South Carolina a few months ahead of the rest of us. At that time, and for reasons unbeknownst to me today, that room was filled with bunk beds and what my best guess is was likely a place where student athletes may have been housed in the summer before campus. And I'm getting a nod from Tom Hickman, so that's a great guess. Thank you for that affirmation. We got during the infancy of the Carolina Panthers, when they first called Rock Hill home, as well as Winthrop. Room 66 served as its media room and location also where Kerry Collins, its first draft pick, and Wesley Walls signed their contracts. It's also where on a random afternoon in high school, I walked in and met Lou Holtz, who was apparently in town for a speaking engagement. I still have the photograph of that random afternoon. As children, Jonathan and Law were able to learn from Dad as volunteers on the stats crew for men's and women's basketball games. Jonathan later on baseball, me expanding into the areas of softball and soccer. We would often find ourselves helping by tracking minutes of players, serving as play-by-play spotters in the various sports, or setting programs at special events, including the ACC Women's Basketball Tournament and the NCAA Slam Dunk and Three-Point Contest, both of which took place in the Coliseum in the 90s. He even had us working alongside ESPN and other regional sports television crews. Our connection to athletics and these opportunities we had many years ago in some small way inspired us to pursue professional careers in public relations and events in the events world. Jonathan has worked at Super Bowl on the World Handball Championship in Croatia, as well as the Soul Train Awards. I've had the opportunity both at Winthrop and then afterwards to assist in working in several NCAA regional championships in men's basketball. Thank you, Dad, for these opportunities. The Gout Ranch, the prize jewel of the Winthrop Farm Complex. Dad tied us to play golf on that pristine track, where any ball that managed to stay on the green was an automatic gimme. We were there to see hole 3 become unplayable as the trees blocked access from tee to green. Dad was a leader, a trailblazer. He ushered in an era of computerized statistical record keeping, introducing the athletic department to the world through the internet. And he even had the off-the-land idea, along with Mr. Hickman, to propose the creation of this very event, the Winthrop Athletics Hall of Fame. He even had a hand in managing stats for the University of South Carolina football team, as well as the short-lived Charlotte Rage indoor football team, the Arena League that played in Charlotte several decades ago at this point. Because at that time, He was simply the only one that knew how to do this on a computer. In sport, success is often measured by championships. That has been a part of many, certainly, a part of many of those that have been mentioned this evening. He would say, though, his greatest achievement at Winthrop was celebrating the off-field academic successes of student athletes. To that, he was instrumental in the development of the Big South Conference Scholar Athlete of the Year program, and later the All-Decade team. Several of our inductees this evening have found themselves on those very teams. All stories could certainly go on and on as I reflect about Dad's time and our family's time at Winthrop. I'd like to formally introduce my dad, Jack Frost, as the final inductee of the 2025 Winthrop University Athletics Hall of Fame.
Michael, thank you very much. You say I probably don't have to do my speech and held it. Thank you. I want to thank the selection committee, Chuck Way, Brett Rubin, and others for this honor. Being inducted into the Winthrop Hall of Fame or the Winthrop Athletics Hall of Fame is the single greatest and most meaningful honor I've ever received. And I've been involved in college athletics for 41 years at 2 different schools. And I also want to congratulate the other 6 inductees tonight and say how proud that I was of helping to provide the publicity and promotions of your careers. And you all had great careers. When Derek called me to inform that I'd been selected for this year's class, I was overwhelmed, almost speechless. And for you people that know me, that's probably hard to believe that I was almost speechless. And also Brett asked me to try to keep my remarks to between 5 and 10 minutes. And I asked myself, I don't know how can you cover 27 years and all the memories that I've had in that amount of time. And I said to myself, I can't do it. But to let Rich know his 47-minute record is okay. I'm not going to be touching it tonight. I have so many people to thank tonight. Foremost, I want to thank 2 skilled heart surgeons, the loving care of my wife, Kathy, and the healing power of my Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. Because without them, I probably wouldn't be standing here tonight. And I also have to thank my oldest son, Jonathan, and his wife, Taya, for driving here today from South Haven, Mississippi, to share this evening with me and Kathy. Very meaningful. I appreciate it. I also want to thank Dr. Anthony DeGiorgio, Steve Asindak, and Tom Hickman for hiring me and giving me the opportunity to work for an outstanding university and athletic department. I always tried to repay the trust they had in me by generating recognition and honors for our many deserving student athletes, coaches, and teams. I still remember the late September day in 1990 after I was interviewed by a selection committee, and Tom called me and offered me the job. I was working in my office at the time at Eastern Kentucky University, and I had already decided that if that call came, I was going to accept the job. And then when Tom asked me when I could begin, I quickly replied I'd be on October 15th, which was only 2 weeks away. But back in those days, the NCAA rule on basketball's official start day was October 15th, and I wanted to be on campus for that practice. There are many other special people who helped pave the way for me to be here tonight. I have to go all the way back to my high school days to mention three special people that taught me at Madison Central High School in Richmond, Kentucky. They were my typing teacher, her name was Catherine Dunn, my speech teacher, his name was George Proctor, and my college-bound English teacher, whose name was Maddie Roberts. They truly made an impact on my life. I never knew at the time that the skills they taught me would be used for the rest of my career. I also want to thank the student athletes who chose to attend and compete here at Winthrop. After all, they are the reason we have this enterprise called intercollegiate athletics. Hosting and working their athletic events, reporting their performances and accomplishments to the public, and maintaining and reporting their statistics and records to the Big South Conference and NCAA was a responsibility of my office. And seeing our former athletes being enshrined into the Hall of Fame makes the work of my staff and I well worth the effort. I also want to thank the coaches that I worked with, especially those that have entered this Hall of Fame before me. Those guys include longtime tennis coach Sid Carvalho, who built Winthrop's program into a Big South power and dominated conference championships. Rich Posapenko, whose dedication and hard work resulted in Winthrop men's soccer's rise to the top of the Big South. Mark Cook, who was the architect for Lady Eagles softball's longtime success. Baseball coach Joe Hudak, who built the Winthrop baseball program into a perennial Big South championship power and NCAA contender. Joel McCartney, who built the volleyball program into the league's best. And Greg Marshall, who helped put Winthrop on the national map through dominating men's basketball program that he developed. It was the programs developed by these coaches who made the slogan that I brought to Winthrop, that Winthrop would be the campus of champions. I got some ridicule about that when I first came because we hadn't won too many championships at that point. But in total, during my 27 years, Winthrop athletic teams won 56 Big South Conference championships. And I think that's an amazing, I think Truck had mentioned earlier that we had 70 total, and 56 of those came during that 27-year span. I also appreciate the friendships formed with the Big South Conference and Associate Commissioner Mark Simpson. He and I worked closely on a couple of projects at the conference level. And I want to thank my counterparts in the Big South offices throughout the league. And during our many competitions against Big South schools, it required considerable cooperation among the school's communications offices, oftentimes sharing and providing needed information for the media and our fans. And I want to thank Mark and my Big South peers for making that process smooth and successful. That brings me to the next group of people that I want to thank, and that is the support staff of the Winthrop Athletic Department. It takes a community of talented and dedicated staff members to make a good department, and I've always felt that we had one of the best here at Winthrop. And I always tried to remember that there is no I in the word team. I always preferred using we or us rather than I. During most of my 27 years here, Winthrop had a strong team of support staffers under Tom. We worked well together, no matter what we faced, whether it was hosting on-campus Big South championships or events like this Hall of Fame dinner or selection Sunday parties. Our team came together to make it happen because we were professionals and we were committed to excellence. And some, I want to give a big shout out and thank you to my coworkers through the years. And I'm going to name some, and you may not know some of these people, and you may know some, but bear with me, Howard Klein, Dan Murray, Mike Drummond, Jason Capel, Amy Klein, Daniel Hopper, Sharon Dubart, Norma McDuffie, Joanna Harris, Jill Deese, Scott McDonald, Jeff Rahr, Laurie McLean, Michael Bush, Scott Finn, Clint Wall, and my administrative assistant for several years, Kelly McGinnis. I also want to say how much of an honor it was to serve under Tom Hickman's leadership as athletic director. It was during Tom's tenure that Winthrop Athletics enjoyed a facilities construction boom, as venues such as the Winthrop Ballpark, and as I learned today, now the Founders Field, the Memorial Kurtz, the Ann and Vernon softball, or Ann Vernon Terry softball complex, and the Irwin Belt track became a fixture on the Winthrop landscape. Those facilities, as they opened, made it much more easier for me and my staff to do our jobs and serve our athletes. While teamwork was a key to our department's success, there were several projects that I'm proud to claim as my own, as I tried to bring innovations and upgrades to the office. Michael mentioned a couple of those in his introduction. In 1990-91, I introduced the use of computers to my office and courtside statistics to the athletic department, as well as the Big South Conference basketball tournament. In 1996, even before Winthrop or other Big South members had an internet presence, I made it a priority that our athletic department would be on the World Wide Web. I saw a need for social media and video services staffing, and as a result, I was able to get Tom's approval to hire the first 2 people to staff those positions. When we found ourselves without a radio station to broadcast our basketball games in the mid-90s, I worked to find a solution, and we were able to get back on the air and actually expand our opportunities for other sports such as baseball and softball through the internet streaming process. I was able to spearhead Winthrop's regional and national media coverage due to the success of our men's basketball dynasty that resulted in 9 NCAA championship tournament appearances over a 12-year period from 1999 to 2010. Our first trip to the Big Dance in 1999 resulted in the university receiving more than $2 million in national media exposure. Sports fans across the entire country knew about Winthrop as we were the subjects of a CBS Sports Network special, a Turner broadcast station feature that was seen throughout the nation. We also received a 3-page spread in the Los Angeles Times. One of the most meaningful accomplishments I had was proposing the establishment of the Big South Conference Scholar Athlete of the Year and the Our Academic Team Awards during my first stint as chairman of the Big South SID Committee back in 1992 and 93. Then in 2013, I recommended the startup of the Big South All-Decade Team Recognition Program in conjunction with the League's 30th anniversary celebration. These awards have resulted in thousands of honors and recognitions for Big South student athletes. It all ties into my earlier statement about why intercollegiate athletics exist, and it's all about promoting student athletes. Get this. Excuse me. I'm especially proud of my role in initiating the establishment of this Hall of Fame and serving on the nomination committee for the first 14 years. In addition to the Winthrop Hall of Fame, I was involved in the formation of the Big South Conference Hall of Fame, and I'm privileged to still be serving as a member of the selection committee in its 21st year. Ever since my arrival at Winthrop, I was blessed to have a quality support staff of graduate assistants, interns, and full-time staff. It was always my guide to recruit and train young people who had an interest in making athletics a career. 13 of my former student assistants and interns have gone on to become professionals in the sports information and communication fields all across the country. I want to especially mention people like Matt Rotten and Kathy Anderson, who were the two graduate assistants hurling by the fort when I first arrived. And my many interns, including John Vagnetti, Jamie Joust, Trip Tepper, David Lane, John Verser, Wesley Herring, Gustavo Zanet, Lauren Biggers, Michael Faust, Brian Dunn, Brandon McGinnis, Ruth Tharp, and Michelle Dillingham Wall. I hired Dolby Lang as an intern around 1996 to specifically help put the athletic department on the internet because he knew how to build websites using Microsoft front page software. Around 1998, when social media became the rage, Tom gave me approval to hire our first full-time assistant, and I brought in Winthrop grad Everett Hutto to serve as director of new media. Then 2 years later, when Everett took a job at UNC Asheville, I hired Brett Redden, another Winthrop grad, as my assistant, and he still remains at Winthrop today. And I'm proud of what Brett's been able to do. Another addition to the office that I made was director of video services. Again, as with the internet, Winthrop helped blaze the trail for video services after the Big South Conference mandated that all schools be able to produce in-house women's basketball telecast. I brought in Calvin Thomas, an experienced videographer who had been working a few years at CN2. I later hired Winthrop grad Jeremy Winder as Calvin's replacement. Then, as demands for ESPN Plus productions increased, I was able to bring back Everett to serve as producer and director of video streaming telecast. Of course, we needed to have good on-air talent for our radio and video streaming, and I found outstanding broadcasters such as the late Mike Cranston, followed by Dave Freeman and Mike Pacheco. I also need to thank another guy that a lot of people aren't aware of, Scott Neisler, and Scott's here tonight, and I'm glad to see you, Scott. He's a great friend of mine and a great friend of Winthrop Athletics. His main job was as mayor of Kings Mountain, North Carolina. But Scott stepped in to make it possible for us to broadcast baseball and other sports in the 1990s through the use of his equipment. He donated his equipment, loaned it to us for use free of charge, and we depended upon his equipment for several years. And it was because of Scott that he and I were able to travel to Hawaii and the Dominican Republic and broadcast Winthrop baseball games live. That was an exciting trip. We had a strong talent package to bring the excitement of Winthrop sports into the living rooms of our fans. My 27-year Winthrop journey seemed to fly by, but now as I look back on those years, my mind returns to that late September day in 1990 when I interviewed for the job. I was invited to President DeGiorgio's office. As I sat there and we talked, he told me how special Winthrop was and how important my role as sports information director would be in spreading the word about Winthrop to people across the Carolinas and the nation. Dr. Dewey impressed upon me that athletics is the front porch of the university, and as such, it would be my mission to help open Winthrop's front door to future students and supporters so they could learn that Winthrop is truly the campus of champions. And I go at my best effort, and I hope Dr. Dewey was pleased with the results. In closing, I want to once again thank Winthrop Athletics, all of the folks who helped me along the way, and those who helped me achieve this great honor. I will cherish it forever. Go Eagles.